we leave the Rooster and we head to history. And we're turning to head east, and eventually we're going down the old A6. Well, we're heading on the old A6 now. This was the route before the M6 was built. And the Eamont Bridge was a toll bridge. And just slightly back there, on the right as we come down, there's an old building which is the old toll bridge building. And some of the buildings down here, that one there, 1734. Nearly 300 years ago. So they had to pay to cross the river. Now as we head down here, you've got a little roundabout. This is where we're going to turn right, and it's where our history lessons start. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. In that field there, we're going to be exploring that in a minute, to do with King Arthur. But just a little bit further up, we're going to turn right down to here. That's where the big Millennium Stone is. And the Millennium Monument. But this area is synonymous with the Romans. And the first place that we're going to see is Mayburgh Henge. So this henge, they reckon we're around about 5,000 years old. 5,000 years old. That's not just yesterday, is it? You see, they had sheep 5,000 years ago. So the edge of the pit, or the henge, is constructed from cobbles. And there's the Neolithic stone in the centre. But they reckon that this was a meeting place, I guess, for the tribes in the area, which they would be, wouldn't they then? Tribes. And those trees wouldn't have been there. But it's close to the river. A lot of the history around here is based on the river. We're going to be seeing more of that later. Mayburgh Henge, literally on the outskirts of Penrith. So we turn back round and retrace our steps a little bit. Because the next piece of history that we're going to visit is a hop, skip and jump from where we've just been to Mayburgh Henge. And we're going to go in and have a look at Arthur's round table. Despite its name, this is a prehistoric monument and probably dates from the period 2000 to 1000. Now literally just over there is the Mayburgh Henge, 3,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago. It's a wide ditch enclosing the flat area, as you can see. There's a low circular platform. But unfortunately, the construction of the modern road, which is literally just there, has destroyed one of the banks in the ditch to the northwest together with the second entrance. And this is the northwest, this is it here, that's the main road that has destroyed one of the bits. Like Mayburgh earthworks, 400 metres that way, it may have been the meeting place for a large prehistoric community. So as we walk just to the side here, you've got this flat plain, but then you've got the ditch to the side. Around about 2,000 years ago, 1,000 to 2,000 years BC. People were living and constructing things a spit's distance away from Penrith, or the Penrith that we know today. Now in there you've got Lowther Castle and Gardens, privately owned, now a holiday park. But what we're going to do, it's a little bit higgledy-piggledy, the history that we're going to be talking about round here. But it'll give you an idea of what you can come and see in the area. When we started this, we went into Appleby and I showcased you Appleby Castle. And Lady Anne, who had a lot to do with the resurrection of some of the castles in the area, she's connected to 4. She's connected with Appleby Castle, Bruff Castle, Broome Castle that we're going to now, and also had a connection with Pendragon, which we will see later on. She was prolific in wanting to make sure that the properties were brought back to life before she took them. They were uninhabited, they were ruins, and she brought them back to life. Unfortunately, when she died, they went back into ruin again. But what you're just about to see is one of the most fabulous castles in the Eden Valley. And that is Broome Castle. Now as we look over this side and look over there, it had to be rebuilt after the storms of 2015. The water was so prolific and violent, it washed away part of this bridge that had stood for hundreds of years. In the far corner just over there, you can see a little bit. That's where the stream used to go, because there was a mill on that site there, over there in that field. But luckily, early this year, I was allowed access to Broome Castle. So let's go and have a look. Broome Castle. Recently discovered that we would have thought this river is doing the course that it's doing. Oh no, it wasn't. That is a man-made set of bricks or stones to divert the course of the river along here and to stop the erosion in the bank, because as you can see. But all this here was a massive great pond or lake that was put together when people occupied the castle. That castle now belongs to English Heritage, and we're going to go and see if we can have a look inside. There was a bridge there, medieval times, but in between the A66, you can just see the A66 bridge over there. In between there and this bridge, there was a Roman bridge. Other side of that river used to be Scotland, and Penrith, well, that was the first town in Scotland. Not that long ago, actually. Ha! So anyhow, let's go and have a look at Broome Castle. Looking totally and utterly splendid today. But also nearby, there's a Roman fort, which I knew nothing about, and I'm sure there's quite a lot of other people knew nothing about. But in early 1700s, the guy who owned this, who didn't really stay here, he took the roofs off and just put it into ruin, emptied all the contents out and put it into ruin. And over the years, of course, it's just got into a dilapidated state, which is now being protected by English heritage. But a lot of the stone used to build the castle was taken by the nearby Roman fort. And this is a mile away from the battle at Clifton at 1745. What a fantastic piece of architecture. And it's also associated with Brough Castle. And Brough Castle is where the Brough Castle ice cream place is. If you're not a member of English Heritage, I saw when I was coming in, I think it's about £6 for entry. And you can buy the guidebook of it all. That costs £3. Also, a woman by the name of Lady Anne Clifford was prominent in this area, and she owned 4 castles in Westmoreland. That was the old name for this area. At Appleby, Brough, Pendragon and Broome. Well, we've looked at Pendragon Castle before, and we've done Brough Castle. We've done Appleby Castle, and now we're doing Broome. Appleby was probably the main castle, but she moved around and occupied them at different times. This illustration shows Lady Anne Clifford being greeted by her steward on arrival at Broome on the 14th of October 1670. And on the right there, you've got members of her household. But she left here to return to Appleby in 1671, and Appleby Castle is very much prominent with Lady Anne Clifford, and it has one of the oldest keeps in Britain. So this is the castle of Roger Clifford, Lady Anne Clifford, Roger Clifford. In the late 14th century, Broome Castle was again an effective border defence. However, in August 1388, there was a Scottish invasion of northern England. In this illustration, we see a group of merchants who have arrived during the preparations for the castle's defence, and a lookout on the top of the keep has alerted knights in the courtyard to a possible attack by Scottish forces. Roger Clifford was responsible for much of the building work at Broome, including hall, kitchen and chapel. These were all on first floor level in a range of buildings which can be seen on the right. He died in 1388, and his building work was the last major change to the castle until the middle of the 17th century. On July the 22nd, 1300, Edward I stayed the night at Broome Castle on his way to Carlisle, and this illustration shows him being greeted by Lord and Lady Clifford. And beside the king is his armour bearer, and they are followed by a host of knights. Roger Clifford was an important figure in the Scottish Wars, which began in 1296, and he died at the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. This illustration shows the castle as it may have appeared in the early 13th century. The great windows in the keep are closed with wooden shutters to keep out the cold. Tremendous construction, isn't it? So this is Broome Castle, just on the east of Penrith, that instead of zooming past on your bike, you can get yourself here and explore.